Thanks so much, everybody, for joining us today. Today's topic, we welcome Katie Maycock, and Katie and I were introduced a couple of weeks ago by a mutual connection who was involved in one of our other things that we did previously. As soon as I heard about Katie, I was really excited to get Katie on board, because Katie's specialism is she looks after stress and anxiety and burnout in the workplace and what have you, and she's got her own company, which I'll let her kind of explain a little bit more about. So this is her expert field, and I thought that, you know, on all of these webinars, I don't tend to kind of dwell too much on the kind of current situation, but I think it's safe to say that over the last few weeks and month or so, probably all of us have felt pretty anxious, pretty stressed out, and some of us are working, you know, all hours under the sun and what have you. So I thought this could be a really good opportunity for Katie to kind of come on board and share some wisdom for us. So nobody's here to kind of listen to me today. It's all about Katie. But I just wanted to kind of give that very brief introduction. So first things first, thanks for joining us, Katie, and let us know all about you. Just one last thing before I hand over. When we were putting this together, Katie and I were discussing, and we kind of both said, and Katie in particular said, what she likes if people are kind of brave enough and what have you, to try and make it as interactive as possible. So obviously we understand that, you know, a lot of the things discussed are quite personal and all the rest of it. But if somebody does want to kind of interrupt with questions and what have you whilst we're going through it, Katie's really open to that. So I'll pass on to her, and thanks in advance for joining us, Katie.
No, thank you. So thanks for everyone for coming along. I think it's, I hope you get a lot out of it. So as Paul mentioned, I run my own business. I work with corporate companies, CEOs, as well as employees of companies, talking about stress, anxiety, the impact on the body, and how to prevent burnout. And I mean, to be fair, it's a really interesting situation that we're in. I'm similar to Paul. I don't really like talking too much about the situation that we're in, but I think it's important to talk about the impact that stress has on the body and the mind, and what we can do to actually help manage right now. Because I think it's really important right now to manage. I don't even know, what week are we in lockdown? Is it 6, 7, or 8? It's around that time. I would say that a lot of people have also been in their own version of lockdown for, you know, even longer than that. I know for myself, I was working from home a lot longer before the lockdown kicked in. And I think this is the week, or even last week, some people were starting to struggle and definitely looking at what we could be doing to help support those people. So as Paul mentioned, I really want to create this webinar to be as interactive as possible. I want to help you out for where you're at. So if anyone's brave enough to just jump in, ask a question, or even put a question in the chat box to the side, I'm really happy to do that. But realistically, what I want to talk about today is, what can we do about stress? What can we do about anxiety? How can we prevent burnout? What are different things that we can do with nutrition, mindset, all those different types of things to actually help prevent burnout? So to give you a bit of a background about me, outside of just burnout and stress, I actually went to university. I have a double degree in human nutrition and advanced physiology. That's how I started my business. And the stress and anxiety piece came into play when I started really looking at digestive health. So I specialized in digestive health for a number of years. And if you're looking at digestive health, you have to look at the impact that stress has on the body. So I started looking at stress that way. I've also suffered from stress and anxiety myself, actually burnt out twice in my life. So the first time was just not enough for me. I had to do it twice to really understand the impact that stress has on the body. And for me, a lot of the times, stress wasn't necessarily a negative thing. I actually used stress as a way to drive me forward, as a way to get me to be successful, to actually help drive that motivation piece. But unfortunately, regardless of the fact that I saw it as good stress, my body really didn't manage. So a lot of the times when I talk to people, it's not necessarily always looking at stress and anxiety as, oh, it's really bad, it's created a negative mindset. Some of the people that I work with have actually used stress and anxiety to move forward, to drive them success. And I think in the last 6 weeks, a lot of people have done that. A lot of people have used the stress to, make sure that they're succeeding at work, making sure that they're moving forward in their career, and just, making sure that they're just maintaining some level of success in their life. However, over a long period of time, it really has a huge impact on our body, and we're in a stage where we don't know where it's going to end. So understanding what we can do physically with our mind, physically with nutrition, exercise, as well as daily routine. Also looking at different ways that we can, what happens when I'm feeling really stressed out? What should I do? So helping change the mindset piece there. And that's what I really do talk about. So I guess I want to jump in and ask the question, do people know about burnout? Have people either suffered from it, or is there anyone out there that would be like, yeah, I want to know a little bit more about it, or what do we know about it? You can put it in the chat section or unmute yourself if you feel comfortable.
Katie, I'd like to ask a question about burnout. If
Sure.
How would you classify burnout? Because we hear it a lot, and what would be the kind of trigger things and bits and pieces that people could look for as signs of burnout?
Yeah, so for me, when I look at burnout, and I'll just define what burnout is. It's exhaustion from prolonged stress, but it's physical, mental, and emotional exhaustion. So it's covering a whole range of things. I think a lot of people, when we look at burnout, a lot of people look at it from the physical standpoint, they look at it from the mental standpoint or the emotional standpoint, but realistically, it's all of the above. A lot of the times when we're looking at stress, we look at stress a lot of the times as just a mental health issue. It really does have a huge impact on the body, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But burnout really is complete and utter exhaustion from prolonged stress. Now, when I look at stress, everyone's a little bit different on how they respond. So for instance, for myself, I saw stress as I use it as a fuel to drive me forward. Some people see stress in the overworking, they're overloaded, they can't manage their own structure, things like that. And I think everyone has a different relationship with it. Now, when I look at the warning signs, a lot of the times I look at, what is our body telling us? Our body is actually really good at telling us, hey, I'm not coping, I need you to slow down. We just have to be in tune with it enough to understand, okay, cool, what is my body trying to tell me, and what do I need to do about it? So what I'll do now is I'll talk a little bit about the impact that stress has on the body and how people burn out. Because you don't just wake up one day and go, oh, I'm burnt out today. There's a complete journey. I actually say you're on a journey. Burnout's a destination, but there's a whole journey prior to that. So stress and anxiety have such a profound impact on our body in very different ways, and definitely impacting our physical health. I think we all know that, oh yes, stress is bad for us, but we don't really understand why. So when I talk to people about stress and anxiety, I focus on 3 areas. I focus on digestion, because when I was a digestive health specialist, I've got to say, the number of people that I saw that either had IBS, allergies, intolerances, or had any type of digestive issue was significant. It was an increase, especially in the first 5 years of me being a nutritionist. I've been a nutritionist for around 15 years. So that was something that I really looked at. The other area that I look at is I look at immunity. Our immune system is something that really does get impacted, and I'm going to explain to you why in a second, but as well as inflammation. So let's talk about stress in a bit of an overview and a broad structure of stress. So a lot of us know what stress is. How many of you have heard of the fight or flight response? Yeah, I'm going to say a lot of us. I can see a nod. Some people don't have the cameras on. So, I think a lot of us would know what the fight or flight response is. So when we're looking at stress, we've got to look at the fight or flight response, because I remember when I was really, really stressed out and suffering from a lot of health issues. So a little bit about me, when I was really struggling and using stress as a fuel to get me where I was going, I had severe digestive health issues. It was easier for me to tell you what I wasn't allergic to rather than what I was, because there was a massive list. It was the length of my arm. I was suffering from severe inflammation as well. So I remember being 26, I woke up one day and my left hand was 3 times the size, and there was no reason for it to be that way, as well as I ended up with cold sores all up my face. Normally when I'm in human form and I do this talk, I actually show a picture of what my face looked like. I actually had a cold sore from the bottom of my lip going up my jawline. And I remember the first thought that popped into my head when I looked at myself in the mirror that day was, holy shit, I look like Shrin Baratheon from Game of Thrones. Like, I remember that clear as day. It was the one thing that just popped in. So when I started looking at stress and the impact that it has on the body, I was like, well, if stress is so detrimental to my physical health, why do I even have it? So we have to look at the fight or flight response. So if we go back into prehistoric times and we look at the fight or flight response, which is still part of our brain, we still have that today. But realistically, let's say we're walking down a path and we see a lion, tiger, or a bear. Our immediate reaction and our brain has an automatic response, which actually creates a physiological change within the body, which pretty much says you need to run away. So physiological changes such as an increase in adrenaline, an increase in cortisol, a change in blood flow throughout the body, an increase in blood sugar levels as well. Pretty much you're priming your body to run away and fight a potential threat. And it's completely fine to do that. You know, if you go back into prehistoric times and you think about if you see a lion, tiger, or bear, you're either going to run away, fight it, or you're going to die. But realistically, how long do you reckon that would take? You know, running away or fighting, you know, potentially 15 minutes, half an hour, you know, it's not really too long. But what's the opposite to fight or flight? Does anyone know? Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of no's. A lot of people don't know the opposite of fight or flight, but there is an opposite to fight or flight, which is rest and digest. So this is why I talk a lot about digestion. So after a period of stress, after we've run away or we've potentially fought that, you know, that threat, our body goes back into homeostasis. It goes back into rest and digest. It goes back into a phase of, okay, cool, I can rationally make decisions. So if we look at the brain structure and we look at the three elements of the brain, we've got the survival brain, which is fight or flight. We've got the limbic brain, which is the emotions. And then we've got the neocortex part of the brain, which is I can make decisions. I can rationally choose what I'm going to do. If that makes sense. But what happens is we're completely in the survival mode. So our whole body is just like, okay, cool, I've got to go survive. But this has it has an impact on our body. Now let's fast forward to today. How long is our stress right now? Like, would you say that our stress is 30 minutes, you know, sporadically throughout the day, or would you say it's longer than that? Especially now, I would say a lot of us in stress a lot of the times. How long do you reckon our stress goes for? It's all the time. For somebody, I'm just waiting for, put it in the comment section below if you want to. Yeah, so if we look at our stress today, our stress depends who I'm talking to, periods of it, definitely most of the day. So realistically, we're having this, our body is primed to run away and potentially fight a potential threat that's lasting longer than, you know, 30 minutes to an hour. Our modern day society, even without looking at, you know, the coronavirus pandemic, we're actually looking at stress and anxiety lasting for, you know, 8, 10 hours, 12 hours a day. And our body's consistently in that moment. And it really hasn't adapted to deal with that. Not adapted to deal with that amount of stress for a prolonged period of time. And so what also happens during fight or flight, our body dictates what's important and what's not important. And like I said, if the opposite of fight or flight is rest and digest, what do you think is happening to our digestion during that time? Do you think it's really important that we're digesting our lunch if our body's primed to run away or potentially fight that threat? Nope, it's really not. So the reason why stress and anxiety, and there's a comment before saying, you know, when you get stressed, your IBS flares up. The reason why is because during a time of fight or flight or during a time of stress, your body's going, do you know what? I really don't need to digest food right now. What I really need to do is run away or potentially fight this potential threat. And a lot of the times, let's be really honest, in the situations that we're in, when we're in stressful situations, it's usually not socially acceptable to like fight the potential threat. So if it's a manager, you're not going to fight your manager. That's just socially inappropriate, or fight a partner or whatever it is. And a lot of the times we're not in situations where it's socially acceptable to run away. So, you know, we can't really run away from things as well. So we're sitting there with this stress and we're primed to run away or to potentially fight this potential threat, but we can't actually do it. We're not able to fight. We're not able to run away because it's socially unacceptable. So it's having a giant impact on our body. So what happens is the tiger outside the window scenario, yeah. So what actually is happening is during the times of stress, our body dictates what's important, what's not important. Digestion doesn't really seem to be important. It also takes a huge amount of blood flow to the digestive tract to digest food. But what happens is in fight or flight, our body is primed to actually run away. So a lot of the blood flows into our arms and our legs to run away, and also through the, going to the heart as well to make sure that we can fight the potential threat. But if we're in a prolonged period of time when we're not digesting food, 30 minutes is okay. Like, we have moments when we're not digesting food for 30 minutes. That's not a huge drama. But what is the problem is when we're in it for a long period of time, 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, that's causing a huge issue with our digestive tract. So many people have allergies, intolerances, and IBS because of stress. And I think a lot of the times we know IBS and stress is linked, but we don't really understand why. That's why stress has such a profound impact on our digestion. And we need to make sure that we are, eating the right types of foods and making sure we're managing our stress as well. The other thing that's really impacted is our immunity. Now, how many of you, when you go on holidays, when we can go on holidays, or when you had previously when you've gone on holidays, what's the first couple of your days? What are the first few days like when you first go on holidays? Are you really are you just loving it? Are you healthy? Are you energetic? Are you actually finding that you're sick? How many of you get sick on the first couple of days of, you get ill, you're exhausted? So what's really interesting, a lot of people always say, it's like, oh gosh, I came back from holidays, but for the first couple of days, I was really sick. I had a bit of a cold, I had a bit of a flu, I was just not feeling great. And it's really interesting what happens in times of stress. Our body actually goes, you know what, I really don't need to fight potential threats. I don't really need to fight these foreign bodies. So let's say we come into contact with a cold or a flu or, some other type of bacteria or virus. Our body just goes, do you know what? I don't really need to waste my energy on fighting this right now. I actually need to use all my energy to run away or fight this potential threat, which I'm not doing, by the way. I'm not doing that. I'm just sitting here thinking I am. Our body dictates and goes, you know what? The immune system isn't really important right now. Now, what ends up happening is we allow in all of these, bacteria, these viruses, but when we finally calm down, our body's like, oh, okay, cool. I'm not I'm not fighting or fleeing a threat. What I'm actually doing is I'm able to relax. So now I can actually fight all these viruses or these bacteria or these infections or whatever it is right now. So we get really sick. And that's a huge element to immunity as well. So that's why we get, for a lot of people that suffer from stress and anxiety, they do also get either sick frequently or they find it really hard to overcome illnesses. I remember when I was suffering from one of my burnouts, I had the flu and I couldn't get over it for 6 weeks, but I was only like 21 at the time. So I should have been fit and healthy to fight it, but because I was under so much stress, it took me ages to overcome it. And the other thing that a lot of people suffer with, and that I've seen a huge increase with the younger population, is the shingles. The amount of people that I've spoken to are under the age of 40 or 50 who have suffered from the shingles is out of this world. So it really is a huge impact on our immunity as well. So it's definitely a big part there. And the other element is inflammation. So when immunity and inflammation are pretty connected, so whenever we get an infection inside our body, our inflammatory response is like, oh, okay, I need to go fight that. But if our body is going, you know what, I really don't need to fight that infection, our inflammatory system's like, oh, okay, cool, I don't know what to do. And it gets overloaded and it can really cause a huge issue in our bodies. So a lot of young people are suffering from inflammation, and it's coming at really young. They're getting younger with the issues as well. And a lot of the times inflammation causes other issues like diabetes, cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure, all those types of things as well. This is why stress is so important for us to overcome and manage. Now, what I want to do is I want to open up the door to any questions, any comments, anyone that wants to sort of chime in and see if there's anything else. Because I want this to be a discussion. If I've said something like, oh, I want to say something or ask a bit more clarity about that before I move on. Sorry, I'm just going to move over here. You make me realize I actually do not suffer that much from stress compared to what you described. Do you know what? Everyone's really different when they manage and when they deal with stress and anxiety. So for me, I just lived with it for a really long time. And a lot of people I manage it sort of, it's actually, they get the mindset thing, but I'm glad that you don't suffer from any of those things as well. I'm telling you this now, I've had the shingles 4 times. maybe even 5, and it's no fun. It is one of the most painful experiences. But is there anything else anyone wants to pop in? Anyone brave enough to unmute themselves and ask a question or just add anything? I would definitely be interested in how you manage your anxiety and stress. Going to get to that, absolutely. I like to keep busy, enjoy working, so the lockdown is extremely stressful as I don't know how to relax. Do you know what? That's a huge issue. I think a lot of people find relaxing really difficult. It actually causes stress. I remember, how many of you, I don't know if any of you have suffered bad from stress or anxiety, but it's like when you're not stressed and anxious, you become stressed and anxious about not being stressed and anxious. I know that there's a vicious loop based around that. A lot of people actually say that to me when I do that. So can you manage stress with dietary changes? I'll get to that actually. That's a really, really good question. I do want to talk quite a bit about nutrition, as well as mindset and the combination of what you can do and how nutrition can help that. So, all right. So what I'm going to do is, if anyone just wants to just pop in a question or just chime in, please feel free. Like, I'm always happy to stop and answer any questions, because this is your hour. You've given up an hour to listen to this. So I get stressed by not being busy. Oh, I have had that issue too. So I hear you. So what I want to jump into now is ways that you can manage it. And I think that there is a huge element of nutrition, how to structure your day effectively to mitigate the impacts of stress, how to minimize stress and anxiety, and also how to actually develop a good mindset and a resilient mindset in times of stress. Because as we've definitely learned, life is going to throw you curveballs. This is something that I get asked. It's like, can you make sure that I never get stressed again? It's like, no, what we have to look at is how we can become more resilient, because life's always going to throw curveballs at us. And I'm sure everyone's been a bit stressed out about what's been happening in the world right now. But firstly, let's look at physical health. What can we do with our diet, with our daily routine, and with our sleep and all of those kind of things? How can we change that to actually help with our stress and help mitigate the impacts of stress? Because, you know, having digestive issues is also going to elicit stress and anxiety. Having health issues is going to elicit stress and anxiety. So what can we do to help prevent those situations? So I'm going to firstly answer the question of what you can do to manage stress through dietary. So the interesting thing about nutrition is we still have to manage stress and anxiety, but obviously when we're stressed and anxious, it can dictate what we choose to eat. Some people will choose to eat sugary and high fat foods, because what's happening is when we're stressed, our blood sugar actually spikes. And when that decreases, we end up craving like sugary foods and fatty foods and things like that. So a lot of people can relate to the, you know, I comfort eat, I want to eat sugary foods, I want to eat those high fat foods. And then on the flip side, there's people that just sincerely just go, I have to forget to eat. I don't feel like eating. I can't eat right now, so I don't eat when I'm stressed. So there's definitely an element to that. So with sorry, I just realized there's people popping stuff on the chat, and I didn't realize. I want to make sure that I'm not, people are just commenting that I'm a stress eater. So I think the biggest thing when I look at stress is what can we do to prime our digestion to make sure that we're digesting food? How can we actually kind of kickstart our digestion to make sure that when I do eat, I'm actually able to digest it? Because, hey, if you're stressed and you just try and eat food, regardless of what you eat, even if you eat the healthiest meal on the planet, it's not really you're not going to digest it. So at the end of the day, it's still detrimental. So something that I always tell people thinking about their digestion is thinking about the what, when, where. So the what you eat is really important. The when you eat and the where you eat is also really important. So when we're looking at what you eat, we need to look at the things that reduce inflammation. We need to look at the things that also help increase immunity. We need to look at all those different types of things. So the first thing that I always say to people is we all know what we should be eating, what healthy eating is. How many of you, just raise your hands or put it in the chat section below, you know what's healthy and what's not healthy? Yeah. Everyone knows what's healthy and what's not healthy. There's enough people out there going like, yeah, I know, like, trust me, I've been a nutritionist for 15 years. I'm one of those big, like, anti-diet people. It's like, we all know what's healthy. We need to understand why you're not eating healthy. That's the most important aspect, and understanding how to change that mindset, which we'll talk about as well. But we all know what's healthy. The things that I actually say to people, you know what, the things that you really need to avoid when you're really stressed out or really anxious. And this one, I always get people who just go, oh, I don't like this one, but alcohol. Alcohol is a massive one to actually limit, because we all know what we should be eating, like fruits, vegetables, meats, making sure we have a good quality protein, good quality carbohydrate, and a good quality fat, all those types of things. But alcohol is something that a lot of people turn to when they're stressed and anxious. Now, what's really interesting with alcohol is I talk a lot about the microbiome of the gut as well. So how many of you have heard about probiotics, prebiotics, the gut-brain axis? So it all comes down to the good bacteria and the bad bacteria in the gut. Now, good bacteria in the gut, here's the actual misconception. There's no such thing as bad bacteria in the gut. What actually happens is there's an overgrowth of certain bacteria in the stomach. We have bacteria in our stomach because it actually helps us digest food. But what we eat actually feeds the good and the bacteria in our stomach. Now, if we overfeed a certain bacteria and it gets overgrown, that's what actually causes a lot of issue. And the things that can really damage our gut bacteria are definitely things like sugar, alcohol, processed foods, antibiotics is a big one as well. A lot of people talk to me about antibiotics, so that's another big one. But when we're stressed and anxious, it actually can change the way that our gut microbiome is also developed as well, because if we're not digesting food and we're eating foods that's high in sugar or alcoholic beverages and things like that, it changes our gut biome. So alcohol can be one of the worst things to actually drink when you're stressed and anxious. How many of you go, oh, I'm a bit stressed, I'll have a glass of wine to help me relax? How many of you sort of have that philosophy? I'm Australian, so we all do it over there. Yeah. It's one of the worst things that you can do. I always say to people, if you're stressed and anxious, actually try and not drink, because it really does change your gut bacteria. It really does damage it. And here's the catch-22 about digestion. There's a lot of research that came out about 5 years ago, maybe about 10, saying that poor digestion will actually will cause stress and anxiety. So sometimes it's a bit like what came first, the chicken or the egg, but poor digestion can increase stress and anxiety. That's the other thing as well. So it's kind of like you need to manage your digestion to help stress and anxiety, but you've got to manage your stress and anxiety to help digestion. So you got to kind of work on both. But limiting your sugar, limiting your alcohol, and trying to not eat processed foods is really important, especially when you're really stressed. I know it's really hard, but it's really important. So what you eat is definitely something that you need to look at. One of the best things that I always tell people, so that they don't have to think too hard, what I learned being a nutritionist, if it's too complicated, people don't do it. But the simplest thing to look at what foods you should eat, shop on the outskirts of the supermarket. That's where all the fresh food is typically, all the meats, the vegetables is always on the outskirts of the supermarket. All the inside parts of the supermarket is all the processed foods, all the things that I don't call foods bad, but all the foods that might be damaging your digestive health. Now, when I talk about when you eat, you need to really start thinking about when I eat. Are you really paying attention to how you're physically feeling, how you're emotionally feeling, how you're mentally feeling? Because if you're feeling a little stressed or a little anxious or a little overwhelmed, and then you eat your food, we now know it's actually going to impact our digestion. So we need to kickstart our digestion and try and get ourselves out of that fight or flight, that stress response type of reaction. So one of the best things that I always tell people, the best thing that you can do for your digestion is actually prime your body out of fight or flight and into rest and digest. And the best way to do that is to do a bit of a breathing exercise. Now, I remember when I first got told I didn't breathe properly and I had to do breathing, I thought people were crazy. I was like, I'm alive. Like, clearly I know how to breathe. But actually learning how to breathe before you eat properly is really important. So one of the best things I tell people is to do the rule of 5 breathing. So what that is breathe through your nose into your stomach for 5 seconds. So you breathe in for 5 seconds, and we'll practice this in a sec. We'll breathe in for 5 seconds, you hold for 5 seconds, and then you breathe out for 10. I'm sure some people have done type of variant. So who wants to give this a go now? Because I'm either going to, yep, we've got a hand raised. No one else has their videos on, so I have no idea. So majority rules by the people with the videos on. So what we're going to do is we'll do a breathing exercise. So what I want you to do is breathe through your nose into your stomach. Breathe really deep into your stomach. So we'll start now. So breathe in now. Now I want you to hold your breath for 5 seconds. Now breathe out for 10. All right. So how did that feel? Good. So for me, I'm a science girl. I'm really analytical. I'm really like, I'm one of those people that sort of needs to know facts and data. That's just the way my brain works. So when I was like, okay, why does breathing get us out of, why do we feel good when we do it? It kind of just felt a little bit too far-fetched for me. But realistically, what you're doing is you're forcing blood flow to your digestive tract. You're telling your body, hey, I need you to digest. I need to force you into rest and digest so I can actually breathe in through the nose and breathe out through the mouth. Sorry, I didn't clarify breathe out through the mouth. That was my bad. Sorry. But yes, breathe in through the nose, breathe out through the mouth. But realistically, you're forcing your body into rest and digest. You're forcing blood flow to your digestive tract, and you're actually really making sure that you're actually putting yourself in a situation where you can digest food. So what I say to people right now, a lot of the times people might not know that they're stressed out until they do that breathing and they're like, oh, I'm instantly a lot calmer and I didn't even realize I wasn't feeling that calm. So what I tell people to do is to do this before you eat. Make sure every time before you eat, you actually do this breathing exercise. It really helps with the when you're eating. So when you're going to eat, making sure that you're in that rest and digest. Is there a difference? I think it just helps with the physiology of the breathing aspect. Breathing out through your mouth is kind of forces it out a little bit more. But breathing through your nose is absolutely a huge difference because it does change the way that we breathe. When we breathe through our mouth, it's actually a bit difficult. You kind of take in more air. It helps. It kind of mimics what's the word I'm looking for? Like hyperventilation. So breathing through the nose is really important. But breathing out of your mouth I would also say is really important too. So then I also talk about where you eat. How many of you eat at your desk, or how many of you eat when you're in the middle of work, or you're reading emails, or you're on your phone scrolling through social media? How many of you do that? Yep. So I always say this, and I'm going to talk a little bit about daily routine on how to manage stress as well. But if we eat at our desk in front of our computers and we're reading emails, just imagine you get in an email. You've got to think about the brain as well as a conscious brain and a subconscious brain. Every time we're looking at something, or every time we're reading something, or every time we're doing something, there's a part of our brain that's consciously taking in, and then there's a subconscious part of our brain that's also taking it in. So we could actually be reacting stressfully to something subconscious that we're not even really aware of. So I always say to people, try and eat away from your desk. Try and not eat when you're at your desk at work. Take a step back and actually, move away, do some deep breathing, sit somewhere really nice. Like if it's not raining outside, go outside, have your lunch, or just remove yourself from your desk, from your work. So you're actually getting away from, you're preventing stress from coming in, but you're also priming your body in for proper digestion as well. You can focus on a little bit better, because it's all good to calm yourself down. But if you get an email from somebody that can annoy you or makes you angry or stressed out, it's just going to put you at that deficit again to prevent that digestion. And I think that having the focus of what you're actually eating rather than mindlessly eating, do you know what I mean when I say mindlessly eating? Like you're just eating without realizing how you feel. Does anyone know what I'm talking about when I say that? Yeah, I got a couple of notes. Yeah. So it takes away from that mindless eating moment. So it's actually being able to go, okay, what am I eating? How am I feeling? What am I doing? And actually taking some time for you. So that's the what, when, where, when we're looking at nutrition and looking at digestion and what we can do with stress and anxiety. The other thing that the other thing that I always say to people is you need to set your body up for success. You need to mitigate stress as much as you can. So how many of you, when you first wake up, check your phone? How many of you roll over, go, I'm going to go on some social media. I'm going to go on my emails. I'm going to check my messages. Yep. I would say like 95% of people do this, if not more. No, Strictly Recruitment does not. You got out of that. So Pili got out of that. Awesome. So I'm going to put people into a mindset of what you should be doing and why you should be doing that. Because when you first wake up, that is the time for you to really figure out and have a self-audit on how you're feeling, what your thoughts are, what your wants are, what are your desires. And I think a lot of people, when we get into the habit of rolling over and checking through our phone, we're actually looking at someone else's wants, needs, and desires and their requirements for us. So sometimes when we are rolling over and looking at someone else's kind of what they want us to read or what they're putting out into the world, we're actually saying no to ourselves. We're actually saying my wants, desires, and needs actually aren't as important as this other person's. And also a lot of the times it's creating anxiety, because again, like I said, we've got a conscious brain and an unconscious brain. We're allowing unconscious things into our body. We've also got a certain amount of brain capacity on how much information we can take, and we need to make sure that we're giving to ourselves to actually process what we need to process. So I actually always say to people, for the first, if just minimum 30 minutes, if not an hour of waking up, do not check your phone. Go through the process of checking in with yourself, going, how am I thinking? How am I feeling? What do I want to achieve today? What are my wants? What are my desires? Like, go through that process so you can actually really create a good foundation for the day, because then you can understand if you're feeling a little bit stressed or a little bit anxious, you can do a bit of a self-audit of, okay, cool. Why is that? Like, why am I feeling stressed out? What do I need to manage? What am I not doing? And we'll get to the mindset piece in a sec. Yeah, a really good thing. So some people have put some stuff in the chat saying, you know, I don't have your phone in the bedroom. That's a really good one. Another thing that you can do, a lot of people go, yeah, but I use my phone as an alarm. Well, my friends, there is actually a really cool thing that Androids and iPhones do have. There's a thing called downtime in settings. So what I do is I actually pick a time in the evening and the morning of when I want to switch off and when I want to switch on. So my whole phone, I can't use any app that doesn't make sense for me from about 9 o'clock at night until 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. So I actually don't utilize any of those apps, and actually put it in there and actually go, hey, I don't want to go on any app. I don't want to read any email or anything like that. No, it's in settings. It's not an app. It's actually in settings. I'm sure that there is an app that you can do, but I know Android and iPhone have built it in now. They've called it like screen time or downtime, or I feel like Android has something else. It's called something like well-being or something like that. But there is definitely an app in there where you can make your whole phone just switches off. Of course, you can override it, but you can't just mindlessly like go through Instagram. How many of you, like I remember when I first had to put this on my phone, it's like I picked up my phone, and by the time I like realized, I'm like halfway down Instagram, I'm like, I don't even remember picking up my phone, opening Instagram, and I don't even know how I got into this person's page. It was just like, you can't do that when you have the downtime app on. But I always say to people, make sure for the first hour or half an hour to hour of the day, it's solely your hour. You know, do things that are good for you. Oh, okay, scheduled power on and off. Okay, thank you. So that's what I would always say to people. Now, within that hour, I always say, do some meditation, do some free writing, do things that you like to do that actually help you connect with you. Some of the apps that I find the best are the Headspace app and the Calm app. They're really good for people who who haven't meditated before, but need that kind of guidance. So I always say Headspace and Calm are really good apps as well. Now, the other thing that we need to look at is, mindset. But before I go on with mindset, I kind of gave quite a bit of information there, and I want to make sure that no one has questions, or if anyone wants to pop in or even just give advice, because if someone's doing something like, you know, this is really helping me, it's nice to share that as well. Does anyone want to jump in? Meditation every day. I do it myself every morning, even if it's for 5-10 minutes. I think that that's a really good thing to do. If you've got half an hour now that you've given back to yourself, you know, it's not too bad. Jim.
Sorry, Katie.
Yep.
Could I just ask, sorry, Sunil Shah from Saffron. Just wanted to ask, I got slightly distracted when you were talking about when you're eating lunch or evening meal. You know, you're advising basically don't have anything in front of you, just concentrate on your meal.
Yeah, so just concentrate on eating. I think that we live in a world where we can distract ourselves so effectively right now. So being able to remove any distraction so we can focus on eating is really important as well. I would say a lot of people, I remember some of the advice ages ago, I think it was like 15, 20 years ago, the advice was, you know, don't eat too fast, slow down and monitor what you're eating and things like that. It was pretty good advice, but it's being able to be present and mindfully eat rather than mindlessly eat. A lot of the times we're completely disconnected for how we're actually feeling physically and emotionally and mentally. So being able to put ourselves in a situation going, okay, cool, like how do I feel? Okay, I'm going to eat this food, and sort of be a lot more present with eating. I think it's really important. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I'm quite guilty of trying to sort of multitask. Not that men can, but I try and do work while I'm eating, which obviously was quite a revelation to hear you say that.
Yeah, no, it's a really good thing to start doing just to help that digestion. Digestion is so important. So many people suffer with digestion, and I think, you know, a lot of people walk around going, oh, it's okay, like everyone has digestive issues, we all have something going on. It's like, yeah, but think about it this way: if you're not digesting food properly, you're not giving your body the right amount of nutrients and energy that it can function appropriately, and you're opening yourself up to also diseases as well, because 80% of our immunity is also in our digestion. So we need to give that to ourselves to make sure that we are functioning at our best as well. So digestion is a huge topic. So I'm just trying to give you tidbits today, but it's really important.
Thank you.
So every morning I've started writing a couple of bullet points for everything I'm grateful for. So being able to create a list of things that you're really grateful for, and it can be the smallest things, you know. It can be like, I'm so grateful for a conversation I had yesterday, or I'm so grateful that I get more time with my kids or my partner, whatever it is. Whatever you're grateful for, I think that's really important. I've started listening to podcasts when out walking, which I find really helpful and calming. I'm a huge podcast fan. I think podcasts are really good things to be doing, and I personally like to do them while I'm doing stuff. So while I'm working out or walking, it just helps. I do the same thing. I set up a gratitude WhatsApp group, and people add their friends to regularly to build it, etc. That's awesome. Having a gratitude list with friends, like keeping each other accountable, hearing other people's stuff. I love that. That's awesome. I'm trying to keep journaling into my schedule. So help keep that. Yeah, journaling is really interesting. I think journaling, you can do it in multiple different ways. What I like to do with journaling is I like to do free writing. So free writing is when you sit in front of a piece of paper and a pen and you just write whatever comes to your head. I remember when I first started doing it, I was like, I don't know what to write. Like wrote that over and over again. And then all of a sudden it was allowing kind of like my subconscious to come out and really write out everything that I was feeling without judgment. So I could write whatever I wanted without any judgment, instead of going like, dear diary, like I want to talk about this. I actually allowed stuff to come out that, you know, maybe I wouldn't have allowed. But I think I love journaling. I think it's a really cool thing to be doing. But yeah, no, I absolutely love that. I was going to say something else, and now I'll come back, but my brain has just frozen for 1 second. It'll come back. I know. I know that I wanted to add something in there, but I do want to talk a little bit about mindset, and I also want to talk a little bit about 4 steps that we can do to help manage stress. So I want to ask a couple of questions. So how many thoughts do you think we have a day?
Too many.
Too many. So 90,000, 100, 1,000, thousands. All right. We've got some different answers coming in. Thousands. Yep. We have 12,000 to 80,000 thoughts a day. 60,000. No, sorry, not 80,000, 60,000. 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts a day. My overthinking is overthinking. I love that. So 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts a day. Now, what percentage of those thoughts do you think are negative? Most of them. 85, 70, 50, 90, quite a few. I admit, at least 70, 80. Lots, 50. 80% of our thoughts, someone actually did guess that 80% of our thoughts are negative. It's interesting, and when you look at it on why we potentially have negative thoughts, it's to make sure that we're safe. Like, it sounds really weird, but like, you know, we have to make sure that we're safe. So 80% of our thoughts are negative. Out of all those thoughts, what percentage do you think is repetitive? What percentage of our thoughts are repetitive, do you think? Most of it, 50, 30, 60. Do you know what? When I first found this out, I was actually mind blown. 75, 65, 80. 95% of our thoughts are repetitive. That blew my mind when I found it out. But if 80% of our thoughts are negative, 80% of our thoughts are negative, and 95% are repetitive, we're constantly thinking the same negative thought over and over. So we need to be able to find a way to break those negative thoughts. I think it's, I think a lot of us, some people deal, they get the negative thoughts and they can talk themselves out of it really quickly, but some people create a narrative around their negative thoughts. And I think that's really common, especially with people with stress and anxiety. So I always talk to people about stress and anxiety is something that we definitely need to find a way to manage. And I'm going to give a 4-step process that you can use for negative thoughts. You can do this for stress and anxiety. You can also do it when you're really highly emotional. How many of you would say that when you're really emotional, you're very reactionary and, you say things that you don't mean, and, you react in certain ways that you wouldn't necessarily do if you weren't in an emotive state? Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people have that. So what I want to do is just with the next 15 minutes or so, hopefully I can get this through, so I want to answer all your questions, but the next, just a 4-step process. So I always say to people, especially when it comes to stress, anxiety, negative thoughts, emotions, all those different types of things, the first thing you need to do is acknowledge it. I think a lot of people go like, oh, I have this really uncomfortable feeling. I know I have it, but I kind of want to ignore it because I just don't really want to deal with it right now. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. It's just like, that doesn't make me feel good, so I'm just going to go distract myself and do something else. But realistically, not acknowledging what it is can really make it, you can end up going down the rabbit hole of what if. How many of you sort of create a what if scenario based around negative thoughts or feelings, and you start creating a narrative around it? Yeah. So this is a bit of a sidestep. I talk about stress and anxiety like a door-to-door salesman. I actually told the story to door-to-door salesman, and I don't think they appreciated it. But anyway, I always liken stress and anxiety like a door-to-door salesman. It knocks, stress and anxiety will knock on your door at really inappropriate times when you don't have time to deal with it, to sell you things that you don't necessarily need. And it's usually what ifs. It's usually like, what if you did this? Like, what if this happens? What if that doesn't happen? And the more what ifs you buy, the further down the rabbit hole you get, and the more you actually create a narrative around something and react to a stressful situation that doesn't even exist, potentially doesn't exist. So it's definitely something that we need to stop. So the way that you stop it is firstly understand what stress, what's the stress. If you're feeling stressed or anxious, label it as stress. Like, I'm feeling stressed and anxious. What you're actually doing is you're kind of dissociating yourself from it. The other thing is with the emotions, actually label the emotion, acknowledge the emotion and label it. It's like, I'm feeling frustrated. That's what I'm feeling. I'm feeling frustrated. And down that rabbit hole. So acknowledging and labeling it is really, really important. The next thing that I always say to people is, once you've acknowledged, once you've labeled it, once you kind of dissociated yourself from it, is you need to take a pause. You need to do a bit of breathing. So I always say to people, take a step back, do the rule of 5 breathing. Once you've acknowledged, once you've labeled it, you're already starting to calm down anyway, because you're not engaging with it. You're not having a conversation with it. You're removing yourself from that. You take a deep breath. And then the best thing to do after that is understand it. I think a lot of the times when we're stressed and anxious, we don't understand where it's coming from. Something I talk to a lot of leaders about, so this is something that I talk a lot with my CEOs and my middle management, and even employees can do this. I get them to understand their frustration and where it comes from, to better understand what's going on. So a lot of the times people are like, I'm really angry and I'm really frustrated, but how they're reacting to the person they're reacting to, or the situation they're reacting to, is actually not the real problem. It's something completely different. It's actually something that's, maybe you've had a fight at home and it's come into the office and you're more frustrated with people, but being able to understand where it's coming from, or where the emotion is coming from, is actually really helpful. So you actually know how to fix it, because the next part is then actioning. Understanding what action you can take. Maybe it's a micro action. What's a micro action that you can do to actually help get you out of that? Sometimes those micro actions might be, do you know what? I'm feeling really overwhelmed. I'm feeling quite stressed out. I'm quite anxious. And I understand that I've labeled it. I've taken a deep breath. I understand why. Maybe it's because of the situation we're in. But what micro action you can take? Maybe that micro action is doing something, going for a walk, doing a little bit of an exercise, putting yourself in a situation that makes you feel better, and actually acknowledging that. Maybe the action is, maybe I need to have a conversation with my partner, because when I'm eating lunch, they're chewing too loudly and it's really pissing me off right now and I can't handle it. Like whatever it is, it could be small or little, and having that conversation, just that little micro action can make a whole world of difference. So I'm just going to go through the 4 steps again. So it's acknowledge and label. Acknowledge the feeling that you're having, acknowledging the stress. Where are you feeling your stress? What's the emotion? Label it, understand it, or acknowledge it, and just acknowledge it and label it. The next thing is take that deep breath, take that pause, take that moment of going, okay, I feel a bit calmer. I'm going from the, the survival part of my brain, going from the limbic part into the neocortex and understanding it a little bit better. And then of course, understanding where is it coming from? Is it, is it something that I can control? What can I control in this situation? Choosing different options in that way is really important as well. And the next part is action. What is a micro action that you can do to help actually get you out of that? What needs to happen to either prevent it or overcome that situation? I think a lot of the times we find ourselves in really stressful situations and we render ourselves inactive, or we freeze and we don't fix it, and we end up going around in this cycle and we never get out of it. But having the ability to go, okay, cool, like what is a micro action that can actually help me get out of that is really important. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I can send you a, what I can do is I'll send a PDF of that, if that is helpful for people. Would people like the PDF of some of the stuff that I've just spoken about today?
Please.
Yeah, I have a PDF of that, so I'll send that across. But yeah.
Thank you. We'd definitely love to have that PDF, and I can kind of share it with the group and the networks as well. That'll be, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah. Okay. I'll have I have a PDF of what I've just all spoken about anyway, so I can give you that. I'll also, in the PDF as well, what I also have is the warnings, like the physical warning signs of stress and anxiety as well. So, or that you're on the road to burnout. So I'll send that across to you so you can read that at home. But what I want to do now is we've got 10 minutes left. I want to open the door to questions. I want to open anything, what people want to share. I think that we're in a really cool group where everyone wants to share and ask questions. So feel free.
I would just like to say this has been an incredibly helpful session, and I'm so happy I signed up for it.
Oh,
Thank
I'm
you.
glad.
Thank
You're
you
welcome.
a lot. I'm looking forward to the PDF, definitely.
Oh, I'm glad. Any other questions? Oh, sorry, go on.
I couldn't agree more with what we've just said. And look, whilst we're waiting for questions to come through, I just want to kind of take this opportunity whilst everyone is here, just to say thank you. It's been amazing. My phone, I've been getting WhatsApps whilst this is going on with people saying how good you are and how amazing it is and how useful it is. So I just want to take this opportunity to kind of speak on behalf of everyone to say thank you whilst everyone is here, and so everyone kind of hears me say that. It's been amazing. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm happy that I've come on and I've helped. I think everyone, you take what you need to out of this, and I'm glad if I've helped in any shape or form, whatever it is. I'm hoping that you can action some of the stuff that we've spoken about today. So there's a question here, really needed to be the anxiety. Definitely want to put that into practice. Yeah, anxiety is one of those things. I think the other thing that I will say is, like, a lot of the times with stress and anxiety, we've normalized it. We've kind of created it as like, everyone's stressed, everyone's anxious, everyone's got this thing. But when we say those things, we actually shut the door on finding solutions. And I think that there is a solution. You don't have to constantly be living with stress and anxiety. You don't have to be living in that, living with health issues and just being as like a part of, like it's a normal part of life. It's, there are different ways to do it, but I think looking at it going, even if people think it's a normal part of life, it's an everyday part of life, it's like, yeah, okay, cool, but what's happening to the body? We need to really look at how you're physically coping with it. So, yeah. But I was going to say, I think Paul's going to send out some of the information about if you wanted to connect with me or if you wanted to ask any questions. I'm so open to that. You guys can connect with me. Maybe, you walk away going, oh, I want to ask a question about that. Feel free. I'm seriously happy to help in any shape or form I can.
Definitely, and I would definitely pass that message on. But whilst you're on here, do you want to let the guys know that your company names and your links and what have you, so people can kind of make of it here and now, and how they can kind of talk to you further in the future?
Yeah, so obviously you can go to my website. So my website is www.katiemaycock.com. So the PDF will have that on it. I'm on LinkedIn quite a bit, so a lot of my stuff goes on to LinkedIn. But my business, if you want to look at my business, it's actually called Get Your Shit Together, literally and figuratively. So I created my business. I remember when I was really stressed out, I was always like, oh God, Katie, get your shit together, come on. So I created a business called Get Your Shit Together, literally and figuratively, because of the digestive health aspect too. So you can find me on Instagram with that one as well. But yeah, you can find me through those ways as well. So that's completely fine. Also, how can you avoid going autopilot when stressed? I think it's being so that's a really good question. I think a lot of people were like, I'm on autopilot. I think it's having that daily check-in with yourself, or even checking in with yourself throughout the day, like going like, how am I actually feeling? Like what's actually going on, and getting really in tune with you and your body and how you're reacting. I think a lot of people kind of have that disconnect between the body and the mind, but being able to like bridge that gap is really important. So checking in with yourself frequently, going like, how am I physically feeling? For me, I had to check in with my body. It's like, what's going on with my digestion? Like, what's my sleep like? Am I getting bloated more than normal? Like, am I tired? The other thing that I would always say to people, especially people that burn out, that don't really realize that they're stressed, it's like, when you wake up, do you wake up feeling refreshed, or do you wake up feeling excited, agitated, anxious? Because that's a pretty good sign that your body's like, I ain't coping. Like, what are you doing? Like, my cortisol and adrenaline's a bit off the radar at the moment. So definitely important. So there was another question here. How do we break the cycle of stress, self-doubt, fear, and depression? So that's a really good question. I think, again, it's being able to, the 4-step process can really help with that, because you end up acknowledging it in a very different way. But I think, I think it's being able to understand where you're at and what's going on as well. So sometimes with that, that's a really big area. It's really hard to answer that. Do the 4-step process, understand, what's going on. And I also think something that I always say to people is never be scared to ask for help. Breaking the cycle of stress, self-doubt, fear, and depression is so hard, but being able to ask for help or reaching out in some form of a way is really important. Because here's the thing, I'm going to tell you this, like, I work with CEOs, I work with a lot of different people, and they all have fear, they all have self-doubt, they all have stress, and they all have and a lot of people have had that depression. So it's making sure you don't feel alone. I think a lot of us can feel alone in those moments, but knowing that you're not alone and asking for help is really important as well. And also finding ways that make sense, like whether it's through counseling, whether it's through a coach, or whether it's just, talking to friends and family about it. That's I hope it's a very difficult question to answer, so I hope that was okay. If anyone wants to unmute themselves and jump in, don't be scared, just jump in. I think sometimes it's easier because I don't know if there's a delay.
Yeah, just want to say, very helpful session. Really enjoyed it. Nice and proactive as well from Strictly Recruitment. So yeah, makes you think about, it's been good just to take time out of the day, think about like your routine and that, because whilst I don't have any sort of real major side effects from stress, I can relate to a lot of things you said, and I think it's just sometimes you go into autopilot and you don't take that time out to have that walk, breath of fresh air or whatever. So it's a really good reminder, so thank you.
No, you're welcome. I think it's easy to get into that autopilot. Like, I've got to do all these things, and it's like, take a step back, slow down, get off the hamster wheel for a little bit and see what's actually working. Anything else?
I think everyone's really happy, Katie, from what I can see. It's I think people have jibbed in with some really good questions, and everybody's kind of echoing the same thing about how useful it was and everything else. So thanks so much for your time. We all really appreciate it.
I'm glad. I'm happy to. I'm happy that I've helped out. And like I said, I'll send over the PDF, and you'll have all my information, so you can connect with me that way. So I've just had if you want to just email me, I just got a comment. If you just want to email me, the email address will be in the PDF. Feel free to organize that with me. I'm happy to have a chat about it. So yeah. But like I said, if you have any questions, if you just want to, you know, I'm doing webinars myself, so I'm happy to help you out if you want to join any of mine. They're a little bit different sometimes, so if you want to come along to them, feel free. But I'm always putting out information and always trying to help people not burn out as well. So anything like that is fine.
I'm in. Thank you so much. I have to go, but I will be looking for your PDF, and just thank you. This is
You're welcome.
Great. Take care. Bye, Katie.
Bye.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much once again, Katie. I'm going to give you a call in about 45 minutes to an hour, if that's okay. If you're free to kind of chat further. But thanks once again. Really appreciate it.
No, you're welcome. I'll look forward to your call. If you could call me at 4, that would be fantastic. I've got a call in half an hour.
Yeah, no, I will do. I'll call you at 4.
All right, perfect. I'll speak to you then.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Thanks for everyone logging in as well. We really appreciate it.